Hi, my name's Matt Locke, and this is the Everyday Athlete Podcast, the podcast for the everyday athletes around the world who refuse to be average and who want to create a legacy of health, fitness, and achievement in every aspect of their life. I'm glad you're here, and once again, it's time to forge your future. Amy Ballantyne, welcome back to the Everyday Athletes Podcast.
Hi.
Now, for those who haven't yet listened to the first episode with you, I can tell you that I know you're sitting in Toronto, in Canada. It's getting late in the evening, so very much appreciate you making the time to be here. And for those who haven't yet listened to the first episode, maybe if you just tell us the quick version about you and what you do would be wonderful.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'm a holistic health coach, and basically what that means is that I help individuals with not just accountability and support around their eating and their exercise, but I also dive into mindset and limiting beliefs and support them on their journey in improving their life, really, around health and reducing stress, all of those very, very important topics. I call myself your health cheerleader. I was a cheerleader in high school and university, and if you can't tell yet, I'm very high energy. And that is part of the reason why I have been using that branding, because people have been coming to me even when I wasn't a coach for that energy and enthusiasm that I have.
Absolutely, thank you. And by the way, I have to apologize because the introduction I did for you in the first episode was nowhere near as good as the one you just gave. So my apologies for that.
Oh, good.
But look, when we chatted last time, we talked about the importance of self-care routines and that they were equally applicable to boys and girls, men and women. And that's certainly true for what we're going to talk about in this episode, which is habit creation. That's gender neutral, equally relevant. And I know that one of the sort of things that I liked on your website, resonated with me, was to simplify health, create habits, achieve your goals. And I like the simplicity even of that statement. But let's dive into habit creation. I guess first understanding what that means in the modern world that we live in. And I'd be really keen if you could share what are some of the common pitfalls and barriers that some of your clients face and how you help them create habits at all or better habits around those topics.
Yeah, so understanding habit creation to start with, it's, uncovering with that individual, the person who's listening to this, what is it that you want to start doing or stop doing in your life, right? So if it's a habit that you want to shift, or if it's a habit you want to gain, we often get attracted to wanting to lose weight, these bigger goals. But I find it really helpful to break things down into smaller pieces. And like we talked in the last episode, breaking those things down into smaller pieces and having small steps that people are held accountable for, that over time they become easier and easier to do. That's because they become a habit, right? There's less thinking involved. It's now subconscious, but it requires us to do them for a period of time. Now, yes, some people say 28 days, some people say 30 days. I think that you could some people say 21 days. I really think it depends on the person and their level of desire and commitment to that thing that they want to shift. So some of the challenges that people are coming to me for are things like, they're eating too many snack foods. That's like one of the biggest things during the last 6 or 7 months, is that we now are working, generally speaking, we're now working where we're eating. Right? Like, sure. Where our refrigerator is much closer than it used to be, right? So it's those habits around self-control, or what's available in the house. What are you buying? Are you eating it mindfully? Those kinds of things. But then we're also talking about mindset around, is it, does the person actually want or need to eat the chips or the snack food, that, or is it that they are bored? You know, what are the things that are causing them to do those challenges, and working kind of that way. What other questions do you have about
Actually, if we dig into that one a little, so I mean, I guess let's say I'm sitting on the couch,
Yeah.
and I decide I'm binge watching something on Netflix. Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about a friend here, obviously, but
Definitely a friend, yeah.
But no, let's say, and I don't tend to eat chips, but nonetheless, if I did, yeah, I get up and I decide it's time. Yep, I want something to munch on. There's a trigger. A trigger has occurred, and is that where you start with your clients, like to dig in and acknowledge that something's just triggered it, and be mindful around what that is and so on? I'm interested to hear how you actually tackle that with your clients.
Yeah, so we first talk about what is the, you know, is it common that while that show is on, that they are craving, like they would use the word craving sometime, or they have to have this type of food. So we're talking about what are the words they're using. There's also this whole huge problem that we have around media while watching shows, right? If there's any commercials, you're basically screwed. No, just kidding. This is the challenge, though, right?
The adverts are designed that way. They're designed to
Yes.
trigger those various parts of your brain to make you want whatever it is they're selling.
Something. I know. So this is like, we want to dive into what is their specific situation. What is the thing that's calling? Is it that they ate dinner too early? Is it that they keep seeing the same chip commercial over and over and over again during that show? So is there a solution around that? Perhaps do they want to record the show and fast forward through the commercials, or only watch it once it's on? Well, I guess if it's on Netflix, then there might not be any commercials, but it's recognizing what are the triggers, as you said. Is it that when it gets to be 9 p.m., they are feeling really low blood sugar, like they're feeling really, like they want to have something because they're feeling weak, shaky, or something like that? So then we're talking about actually nutrient issues, right? Not trigger from boredom, maybe even, or loneliness, or they're missing their family. I mean, there's so many things, right? So it depends on what the trigger is. So we'll talk through that. So let's say it's that they're really bored, and they've seen this commercial for something. So number one, what I ask them is, if you're bored, are you open to putting something in the kitchen near where you typically go to snack to ask you that question? So are you open to sticking some kind of note up, a big giant piece? I mean, if this is something you really want to stop, I mean, that's the big question, right? Does the person really want to stop it that badly, and are they willing to take the steps?
Well, there's a difference, isn't there? Knowing that they should stop versus actually wanting to.
Yes.
I remember many many years ago, I was a smoker, and I knew it was bad for me, and I knew I should stop. Yeah. And I'd stopped a number of times and started again. And my father was a dental surgeon, and he was trained in hypnotherapy as part of dental training back in the caveman days when they used to that. And yeah, I remember saying to him, Dad, can you hypnotize me to stop me smoking? And he was like, nope. And he said, because you don't want to stop.
Don't want to.
If you wanted to stop, then I could help you. He said, and I'd love you to stop, obviously. He said, but only when you're ready and you really want to. It's the same thing here, right? That starts with that. I really want to not eat chips in front of the telly at night, for example.
Yes. The want is so important. So it's uncovering those things first, right? And then the strategy, like having some kind of sign, some kind of sticky notes, something that's going to, be right there. And you may, depending on how long it takes to create the new habit, have to change up where that sticky note is, because at some point you're going to start ignoring it if you're not serious enough, like, right, this is real life. So putting something as a barrier to ask the question, am I actually hungry? And then starting, one of the simplest suggestions that I have in this situation is starting with a drink of water. Yep. So if it's like a hunger thing, it's a boredom thing, it's starting with that drink of water. and you can decide if you want it to be more cold or more lukewarm, like room temperature, to figure out, does that quench what you've come to this place for?
Mm.
And then again, based on their desire to shift, their desire, if it's around nutrients, if it's around weight loss, if it's around feeling more energized, are they open to setting themselves up for success around putting a healthier option right where they typically go? So if they're typically going to the cupboard that contains the crackers, or the chips, or even some of the cereals, are they open to putting something there that can be a different option? So the nuts and seeds comes to mind. Even, I don't love dried fruit for nighttime, but is it better than a bag of chips? Yes. Is it better than chocolate bar? Yes. Right? Like, so again, I'm also helping to see that we're just going on a little stepping stones here, or moving the needle just slightly to how can we improve what we're doing a little bit and shift the needle a little bit, so that at some point down the road, either you don't want the thing, or you're choosing like carrots and hummus, and it feels great because you still have that crunchy, you're still getting the nutrients. If you really needed a snack, you're putting something good in there. It's not horrible to have a snack. Some people are like adamant, unless you're doing intermittent fasting or you're being really, really strict, if you are actually hungry because you ate dinner too early, or you've been working out really hard, or all sorts of different reasons,
Sure.
having a snack is an okay thing, right? But it's like,
Yeah.
what are we choosing?
Absolutely. So you're not, I never, I didn't think you were, but just to be clear, you're not demonizing snacking. You're just saying,
No.
it's interesting. I chatted with a guy called Max Cathcart the other day, and he said most people would really help themselves if they just started every meal with a glass of water.
Yes.
Not
I
only
like
from a
that guy.
hydration perspective, but suppressing a bit of appetite as well. I mean, that sense of being a bit fuller and so on. But I'm personally a great believer in it's the displacement theory. I mean, I've been plant-based for about 7-8 years now. But for me, I don't see it as if someone says to me they're interested to go down that path, I don't think of it as, well, you can't eat meat. I say, well, replace the meat with something.
Yes.
It's the same with snacking.
Yes.
Instead of having chips, have an apple. There you go. So you've just, as you say, got the crunch, you've got the flavour, you've got you've got something in your tummy now. You feel good. The dog's happy because he gets the apple core. Ours love the apple core.
I'm also a big fan of like the concept of adding good, healthy things
Yeah.
in,
Yep.
and focusing less on the taking away.
Absolutely. Yeah. It just displaces. Yeah. Put more good stuff in, and by default, the other stuff gets pushed aside a little bit. 100% with you.
Mm-hmm.
There is, of course, the school of thought as well, and I have been accused of being a little bit black and white. I am incredibly black and white, but for that, yeah, often I ask the question, who does the shopping? I do. Well, then don't buy the chocolate. It'll be in the cupboard, and then
Yes.
when you get the midnight munchies, it won't be there. So I guess it really does start there, doesn't it? It's almost like it's premeditated. If you buy that chocolate or the cookies or the chips, it's premeditated. You're going to eat them. It's just a case of when.
That's right. I mean, like, that's the whole idea, right? You go to the store, you buy the food, like it's going to happen. So
That's exactly right. But I guess habit creation would even then come into the shopping realm, given what we're talking,
yes,
context of what we're talking about. And do you help clients with that? Is that a subject?
absolutely.
Yeah. And how does that? I mean, do you get much resistance to this? I guess they're
There's
motivated if
always
they're coming.
resistance in some spot. I mean, we all have resistance somewhere.
Sure, for sure.
It's just figuring out where it is on each individual person, right? So yes, absolutely. I've had resistance for people when I'm saying, what if we added this in? Or, but again, like I've shared in the past, it really is far more, the person is far more likely to have success if they're the one that came up with the idea.
Yeah, that's such a good.
That's why I would challenge the listeners to be like, okay, if this is a shift that I want to make, where would I start? And then finding that buddy, whether it's a coach like me or whether it's someone that can say, well, did you follow through on what you said you would do? It's the same as like when people are training for your events, when they're, having a buddy to go to the gym with makes it far more likely. Having a buddy to go to the race with makes it far more fun, right? Because you know that they're going to be like, well, you ready to go?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Certainly around food as well. I find even for myself, I mean, I'm tracking what I'm eating at the moment because I'm actually trying to put a bit of strength on. So I'm going the other way.
Yes.
But nonetheless, it makes you so much more conscious of what you're putting in your mouth when you have to track it. So again, is that something you get your clients to do? You encourage them to track?
Yes. Some of the people are like, you're not going to make me track, are you? I'm like, no. It's so good. It is so good to uncover so many things, you know, feelings and symptoms and challenges that people are having, patterns, their fullness, how much they're pooping, like all of these things. We can have better conversations when we're aware of what is going in our mouth. And when you're working with somebody like me, that's a key thing for me to be able to support a person. So I absolutely do ask for that most of the time.
Yeah,
it depends what the person comes to work with me on, right?
Yeah,
if it's all good stuff and we're not talking about food, well, then maybe not. But if we are talking about food, then
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting. Over the last sort of year, I suppose, we at the Bay Games have been digging into all sorts of topics, and included in that is, I think I've described one of the chapters in the upcoming book is called For the Ladies, and in there we really did try and address two otherwise taboo subjects around training around the menstrual cycle and all the considerations of that, which, yeah, and actually even there, the coaches that I was liaising with and interviewing around that subject was they're highly interested to know all of the details. So it's not just what food you're eating, but how are you sleeping? How do you feel? Obviously, and making that log, especially for women, because you can then underpin your menstrual cycle calendar underneath your log and see exactly what's happening when and how you feel when that happens. And it's so important, so important. So I imagine for your client base in particular, similar story. So you need to know kind of everything. And as you say, the power of poop. It's another factor about how we're going. And, you know, the human body is what it is. And it's an indicator if something's not right. It's a great indicator, actually. So I guess some people might find it confronting to log all of that, or might feel overwhelmed even. So I guess, like anything, I assume you take them one step at a time. Well, let's start with food. And then sort of gradually get into logging more. And I guess that's the ultimate habit creation. I have to say, I struggle. I still haven't found my way. I still find it a bit of a chore, logging my food every day. And all right, I'm eating quite a lot of it. So it's like, it feels tiresome. But if I was your client and I said that to you, how would you help me address that? Here we go. Completely self-serving now.
Yes, no problem. So I would ask you, what is overwhelming about it for you?
Sure, excellent. I love that we're going live. We're totally going live.
Yeah, we're going live.
I just feel there's so many digital things that I have to handle every day. You know, all these different messaging channels and emails and websites and all sorts of stuff. None of which I mind, but it's just another digital thing that I feel. It's interesting. It's actually really interesting because when I don't do it, I then feel a sense of guilt because I want to do it and I know the value of doing it, but then I feel guilty because I haven't done it. And it feels like a fail. All right, I'll start again next week. Well, no, how about I start again tomorrow? That's the conversation I have with myself every time.
Well, good for you. That's awesome. That, like, we all are going to have roadblocks, right? And stumbling blocks. It's just how quickly we recover from them. Right?
Yeah, sure.
So if you are having that moment, well, that you just get back on going it, right? So the next question that I would ask you is the way that you're currently tracking effective for your personality, style, and time that you have available?
I'm going to say I think it is. I'm using MyFitnessPal, and the other thing that's handy about that is that the nutrition coach I'm working with, she can access it, so she can see it as well. So it's kind of convenient that it's shareable.
Perfect.
And it's, you know, it's on the phone and all of that. So I think it does somehow. I'd be in denial if I was saying, no, it's on my phone, I don't know how to use it. That's nonsense. I know exactly how to use it. The fact
You
it's
know
on my
how?
phone means it's the easiest thing in the world for me to do. So, and MyFitnessPal's
And
not even hard to use. It's straightforward to use.
good.
So
And would you say, um, is there something that you could do a little bit differently around how you're tracking to make it more efficient?
yep. Oh, damn it. I've got nowhere to hide now, have I? Because the honest answer to that is to be in the habit of logging whatever I eat or drink as soon as I've eaten or drunk it. And,
Yes.
and make that the habit rather than going, oh yeah, I'll do it. That's what I tend to do. I'll do it later. And then when I get to the end of the day, I think back, oh, what did I eat again? And it all feels a bit of a chore and it slips. Whereas if I did it as I went along, so that's definitely, given that we're talking about habit creation, that makes sense that I should find a way to make that my habit. And I guess
Yes.
it's,
And you're far more likely to do it, Matt, because
yeah,
you
yeah,
just
yeah.
said it on a
Yeah,
live
that's right. That's right.
podcast.
And it's even my idea. Well done, Amy. But as well, it comes back to that taking, well, a why, remembering the why, because that's the
Mm,
empowering,
yes.
and taking responsibility.
Yes.
Because I'm Jen Ryan, who I'm working with, and I'm paying her. And at the end of it, if I don't give her the data, well, she can't be as effective, and therefore the results are going to be compromised.
Yes.
I'm answering my own questions, right? But
So good.
knowing all this doesn't necessarily mean that you make the habits around it. So, but I appreciate the coaching, because for sure the answer is that I should just log it as soon as it's happened, there and then. And it takes seconds. So I cannot say I'm too busy. That would be ridiculous, if I'm being honest. But no, very good. Excellent. Oh, look, I appreciate the, we went live coaching. That's cool. You have to send me the invoice.
It's awesome.
But is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience? Because I'm conscious of time, especially where you are, it's getting late. Is there anything else you'd like to share around the subject of habit creation, or is there any links or anything you have available that people can go and have a look at?
Yeah, I wanted to make an offer to the people that were listening that I have a little survey that I really love using for individuals who want to figure out if they're missing any nutrients, if that's an area that they want to focus on as a habit in their life to start, filling the gaps in what they're eating. And so I have a quick survey that individuals can take. I'll give you the link to post.
Yeah.
And they get actually a personalized report back from me that I will be like looking at each person's information and sending the results back. So it's not some like,
Oh, fantastic.
rinky dink little
No,
thing.
sure.
You actually get a report back of what foods to be increasing to reduce some of the symptoms you may be experiencing. So I'd love to share that with your audience.
Oh, on behalf of the audience, thank you very much. And I may even fill it in myself.
Awesome.
We'll see. But Amy, thank you so much. You've been very generous with your time. If people want to reach out and connect with you, how would they do that?
Yes, they can find me on my website is amyballantyne.com. On Instagram, it's Amy Ballantyne, Twitter _Amy Ballantyne, and my Facebook page is amyballantyne.official.
The official. Excellent. Very good. Well, we'll certainly pop all of those in the show notes so we can easily find them. Really enjoyed chatting with you again. Thank you so much. And I appreciate the energy that you bring with you as well, like just popping off the screen. For anyone who's watching YouTube, they know that. But awesome. Amy, thank you for your time.
It was my pleasure. Thank you.
Well, there you have it. Thanks very much for listening. And if you've enjoyed this, please go ahead, hit the subscribe button down below and the little bell icon so you get notified every time we upload a new episode. And if you think that one of your training buddies would also enjoy this, go ahead and share it with them right now. With that said, thank you once again. And as always, be brave, have fun, and lead by example.